there's anyone here yet, but I'm just gonna get started. So before, unfortunately, I lost the stream that I had before of us making the bread this morning because I'm a newbie and I didn't know I had to change the settings for Twitch to save the stream, so I don't have it saved. I'm recording this one just in case, but it should save now. But in case you didn't see it this morning at 8 a.m., I did make a video on YouTube of how to make the masa sourdough that we made this morning. So you can watch that. It's not the same as the stream, but you can watch that. It's probably quicker than you're watching the stream anyway. Okay, so what we did this morning was we mixed the dough, we did some stretch and folds, and then we waited it for it to bulk ferment. And we ended around, I think 11:30. It's been about 4 hours. So it's 3 p.m. now. It's been about 4 hours. So now the doughs are actually, they're perfect. They're right at the top. They're nice and jiggly. This is the beet one. I'm gonna wait to do this one last, only because it makes a mess. Because of the beet powder. This is the masa one's also done. And then the plain one, I'll do the plain one first. It's also done. Oop. You can see the bubbles on this one too. I don't know if you can see them. So we'll do this one first. So this is a banneton. I mentioned this morning. The bannetons are what we're gonna rest the dough in overnight in the fridge. If you don't have a banneton, you can use a bowl. With a tea towel in it. That's how I started. I didn't have bannetons when I started. So, but bannetons do work better, and they get you this one I'm not gonna put a cloth in, so you'll see the nice lines. Because I'm not going to put a cloth in it, I'll just line it with a little bit of. I'm gonna use whole wheat flour, but you can use cornmeal, wheat bran, semolina, but you need something that has the bran in it, so that's why I'm using whole wheat. Some people use very common to use rice flour. I don't have rice flour, so that's what I use. So this is gonna go in this, right? But first we need to shape it. So now I have my bench flour, which is just bread flour for me. I'm gonna put a little bit on my surface, and I'm gonna dust my hands. I'm actually gonna pull my sleeves up real quick. Okay, I'm gonna dust my hands and dust my surface lightly. You don't really want too much. And then see what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just take it out like this. It's okay if you take out some of the bubbles. All right, now I'm gonna put it down like that. Now this one I want to be a batard. This is a batard shape, right? So I'm gonna make it into that shape. And let me show you how to do that. So I have it long ways like this, right? So I'm gonna fold it over itself, right? So go like this, fold it in, and you want it to be tight. So fold it over. You'll get used to it the more you do it. Be tight. It's okay if you pop some of the bubbles. It's pretty tight, so I'm just gonna pinch it. So now I'm just gonna put some flour on the top. There's a bubble right here, but I'll leave it. There's also a bubble. I think I should pop that one. So I'm just popping this one because it's really big and it's like, I think it's gonna affect it later on. And it's on the top, it's on the surface. But it's good that it's bubbly, that means it fermented. You don't want to overdo it though. This one's pretty much perfect. It could have easily gone over though if I wasn't paying attention because it fermented pretty quickly. So this is what it looks like. You want to put it, so see the seam side is up. The part that I close the seam is up. The bottom part is actually the top of the bread. So in the next day, when you, like tomorrow, when I actually go to bake this, I'm going to flip it out. So the top will be on top. So that's why you want the seam side up. Also, this is going to create a nice effect on the bread. So it's going to create lines on the bread from being in the banneton like this. So you want the top to have those lines on it. So I'm going to, I forgot to bring the covers, but I'm going to cover it and put it in the fridge. I'll leave it like this for now. And then I'll do the chili one. I always do the beet last because it gets beet powder everywhere. So this is the one I was referring to as the taco bread on my YouTube. I have it labeled as make taco bread with me. It's made with maseca flour and gochugaru chili flakes. You can use another chili flake if you don't have access to that one, but you can get that one at an Asian grocery store if you have one by you. So I'm gonna do the same thing, except this one I'm gonna put in a round banneton. So this is going to be what they call a boule. It's just round, a round loaf. So but I'm gonna do the same thing. Down like that. Down like that. And now this one we're gonna make round. So we're gonna do it slightly differently. I'm going to take it, just kind of wrap it like this. Do it tightly. Notice something for anybody in here who like maybe seen other people do sourdough and seen people shape it. There is a step that I'm skipping that is normally recommended, and I'm not saying you never do that step. There are times when you should do that step. If your dough is really loose, or if your dough is, maybe you have to, you made 2 doughs or 3 doughs at once and you want to separate it, right, to like individual bread. But if your dough is tight enough, you don't need to do a pre-shaping. I'm not doing a pre-shaping. I'm just going right in and shaping it. And for those of you who don't know, pre-shaping is just when you kind of get it into its shape first and then let it rest for 15 minutes and then you shape it. But I don't usually do that unless my dough is really loose or something's wrong with it. Or if I made multiple doughs in one batch, then I'll do it. But overall, this dough is very tight. You can even feel it. I don't even really need to shape it that much, right? It's already a round, right? So I'm going to put it in here. And again, I forgot the covers, but I'll come back with the covers and show you. So the last one, and like I said, I do this one last because it's messy. And I made this one earlier with everyone. It's a beet, it smells like beets too. It's a beet sourdough. It's gonna come out like a beet swirl if it comes out right. We'll see tomorrow morning. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm gonna make this one into a boule as well. can see. This one is actually a little loose, but I still don't think I need to pre-shape it. The thing is with the beet powder, I mentioned this earlier, the beet powder does kind of mess with the gluten development a little bit. Not sure exactly why. And I think it might be the vitamin C that I add to keep the beet color vibrant. But I think it's okay. Let me see what I can do. If I need to do it twice, I will. But if I do it twice, I give it a bench rest, which means I'll just let it rest for 15 minutes before I do it again. But it feels like it's coming out pretty tight. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm just gonna have to pinch the edges. I'm going to put it in, just pinch the end. So actually I might not need to do it that much, but this is what it looks like on the bottom. I'm just going to make sure it's coming together. So again, it was seam side up, so the bottom is going to be the top tomorrow. So let me get the covers for it. I'm going to put these bad boys in the fridge because they are definitely risen. And I'll actually explain when I come back why I put these in the fridge overnight. So I'm just going to use a towel to cover. If anyone has any questions, please let me know in the chat. So I'm going to use a towel to cover them. And I'm going to put them in the fridge because they're fermenting pretty quickly right now. And if I leave them out, they'll over ferment. And when they over ferment, you end up with flat loaves. They'll still taste good, but they'll be flat. They'll be sticky and hard to work with, hard to score. And we don't want that. So we're going to put it in the fridge overnight and bake in the morning. If you want, you can bake the same day, but just be careful because the fridge slows down the fermentation because of the colder temperature. If you leave it out to do its second rise out, right now it's going to do its second rise, it might take like 2 to 3 hours max. So it's going to be really quickly, but I'm gonna leave it in the fridge for it's only 3 p.m. So it's gonna be in the fridge for well over 12 hours until tomorrow morning when I bake. So it really slows it down and it won't be over fermented tomorrow. So it really slows it down quite a bit and allows me and any baker who does this time to get everything situated and it fits their schedule, right? So I'm gonna put these in the fridge and then I'll come back and I'm going to show you the loaves that I baked yesterday. I baked these same loaves yesterday and I'll show you how they turned out and yeah, we'll take it from there. So these are loaves I baked yesterday. I sliced into them and took pictures yesterday. So they've been sliced into for a full over 24 hours and they're still really soft. So I'll show you. So this is the plain one. You can see here Sorry, my hands have beet powder on them still. Um, you can see here's the ear. I was talking about that earlier. That when you score it forms an ear. And it's easier to score the sourdough when it's cold, which is another reason the when it's cold, which is another reason why you should put it in the fridge overnight before you bake it. It's another plus to that. And here's how this crumb came out. It was around 70. I have to I have to do the math again. It's 70% hydration, I'm pretty sure. It's really soft. It looks like there's blood on my fingers. It's very soft, and even though it's been open for over 24 hours, and it's a good hydration for sandwiches. You can go higher. The higher you go, usually you're gonna get bigger holes. That's why people like to go super high to show off their fancy holes. And all I mean by higher hydration is just you add more water to the dough, but it makes the dough harder to work with. So I stick to 70% for everyday loaves. And it's good for sandwiches. If you go too much higher, it makes sandwiches messy. And this morning, if anyone was here this morning, I ate a very messy sandwich. So you guys missed out if you weren't here this morning. Just saying. So here's the beet one. The only thing is this one over here, it's still very, very soft. But I wish the beet powder kind of was over here as well. But you can see it creates a swirl effect. So this one is nice over the beet powder one. You can also see, I don't know if you can see it on there. There's some yellow right around here. There's some yellow. That's what I was talking about this morning when I said the beet powder. You need to put vitamin C in the beet powder or it'll turn yellow in the oven. So this part probably didn't have enough vitamin C in it or something and it turned a little yellow. So yeah, beet powder degrades and beets in general degrade in high heat. So they lose their color. I'm not sure why exactly, but they do. There are, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't want to deal with that and you want your bread to be purple, it will be more like a lavender purple, but you can use purple sweet potato. I do that too. It's the same process, but you don't need to add vitamin C. And it also works if you don't like beets, because the beet sourdough just tastes like beets a little bit. And I'll show you the masa one, the taco one, but my husband and I have been eating this one, so it is, it's a little eaten. So it's not as the same size. You can see we ate almost half of it. We left the butts, but the butts are good too. So this is what it looks like though on the inside. You can see the stripes of the gochugaru or the red chili flakes that we added. Again, you don't have to add the chili flakes to it if you don't like spice, or you can add very mild chili like paprika to it. And if you can't find gochugaru, you can use, like any mild chili flake that you can find. I wouldn't use the regular chili flakes because you would have to add a lot to get this color and it would probably be too spicy. Although you could try it, I don't know. I mean, I like spicy food. It might be really good. And I wouldn't add something like cayenne either because it's way too spicy for something like this, I think. That's why I add gochugaru. I really like that. I like I said this morning, I use that a lot of things, but I don't make Korean food that much. But it's just, it's good in anything that you want like a mild chili flavor to. And you can add a lot of it because it's so mild and it changes the color of the dish to be this bright red. So it's really cool that way. So yeah, tomorrow. So these were all made yesterday, right? These were all made yesterday and I cut into them yesterday. And like I said, they're still good. Something good about sourdough is that it lasts a long time. It lasts longer than conventionally made bread because the sourdough is acidic. And it's more acidic than regular bread. And it'll last. I mean, I've had sourdough last for more than a week, especially in the winter, and it would still be fine. I'm not saying leave your sourdough out for a week and do an experiment, but in the winter when it's cold, it's usually fine for me. In the summer, sometimes I do get mold because I just would have so much sourdough around, and sometimes I would be like forget to use up all the loaves, so I'd end up putting them in the freezer before that would happen. But in the winter, I have them like for over a week, and they're fine. If you like before I move on, if you think it's gonna take longer than a week to eat it, I would slice it and put it into a freezer safe bag and store it in the freezer. And you can just take it right out of the freezer and put it right in the toaster, and it's good. So it's good. It tastes almost like freshly toasted. You know, you can't even taste the freezer onto it on it. So yeah, what was it? Oh yes. So tomorrow, what you would do now that you have all that bread in the fridge, all that dough in the fridge, what you would do is you would preheat your oven to as high as you feel comfortable getting it to. I go up to 475. I used to go to 500, but my oven runs pretty hot, so I feel like I don't need to do that. So I go up to 475. But you have to heat it up with your baking vessel inside the oven. So if you're using a Dutch oven, leave the Dutch oven in your oven. You want to preheat your baking vessel. So let that preheat. I usually leave it in there for a half hour to heat up, the baking vessel to heat up. You want your baking vessel to be very hot because you're going to put the dough in and close it. And the baking vessel becomes like your Dutch oven, for example, would become a mini oven. So your Dutch oven would be a mini oven. But before you put your dough into the oven, you would get parchment paper or silicone mat, whatever is easiest for you, whatever you have. That just makes it easier to get the dough into the Dutch oven so you don't burn yourself. Remember, the Dutch oven is very hot. So you take that out and you score your dough with a razor. So these ones have a score like this score, right? Those have that score. So it's just a cross. That's what I do for most of my bowls. It's just the easiest way to do it, and it comes out pretty good every time. This one, I got fancy and did sort of an S score. It came out really good. And I did that with a lame, which is just a stick with a razor on it. But I did it with a curved lame. So that's how I got this, I guess, effect on it. Right? So I had a curved lame and I just went through like that. But you can do just a straight line through the middle, even on a batard. You don't have to have a curved lame or anything. You just need a razor. And the razors are really just the razors used for shaving. They're the same razors. I bought them from a bread place before, and then I realized they literally sent me razors they use for shaving. So you can just use razors that you use for shaving. Just don't reuse the razors that you've already used for shaving, but you can use those razors. Yeah. So you're gonna score it, and then you're going to put it into the oven right away, into your baking vessel, so your Dutch oven, and put the cap on. Put it in the oven. Set the oven for 450 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. Then you're going to take the cover off after 20 minutes. Lower the oven heat to 425, 420, around there. Leave it in there for about 20 more minutes. Check to see how the crust is coming out. For example, my crust is, for me, it's good. It's like golden. Some people like it darker than that. Some people like it lighter than that. So check on the crust. If the crust isn't dark enough, leave it in for a few more minutes. You might even want to turn off the heat, which I sometimes do at the 20-minute mark. Turn off the heat and just leave it in there for a minute or two more, and it'll get a little bit browner. Right, and then you just take it out on leave it out on a rack to cool. Let it cool for at least an hour before cutting into it, and then you're good. Then you're good to go. The reason why we cover it and then uncover it is you cover it. Thank you, llama puppies. I didn't even know you were here. I need to figure that out. Like I said earlier, my sister I'm not good with tech. My sister's very good with it. I think there's a way I can see when people enter, but I don't see that. I see when people chat, and I see when people follow, so that's good. So llama puppies, I know you're here now, so you can introduce yourself in the chat. Tell me how you're doing. Tell me what you know about bread and what you want to learn about bread. If you feel comfortable sharing, share whatever you need to or want to share. But essentially, what we're doing when we put the cap on the baking vessel, which in my case is the Dutch oven, you're containing the steam inside the Dutch oven, so the crust doesn't form right away. So that gives it a bigger oven spring. All I know about bread is I'm terrible at making it. So hopefully, llama puppies, I can help you. If you're interested in making bread, I can help you. Yeah, I don't think you're in the video this morning. Unfortunately, the video this morning, because I'm bad at tech, like I said, it didn't save. I thought Twitch would save it, but apparently I needed to change my settings. But I do have a video on YouTube of going through how to make the masa sourdough, which is what we did this morning. So that should be helpful for if you're interested in making the masa sourdough. I also have a blog on my website. It's linked on Twitch, my website. There's a blog post of how to start a sourdough, no discard sourdough starter. So if you don't have a sourdough starter, I have a blog post on that too. But what we're doing when we use our Dutch oven and we track the steam inside the Dutch oven, is it's not going to make the crust is going to stay soft for longer. It's not going to harden up, so it'll give it more time to expand. And then when you take the cap off, you're going to brown the crust. So basically, there's two steps. First step, steam needs to be moist in there, so it rises up and you get a really good oven spring. Second step, you take the cap off, and that's when you're going to get the crust. And you can control how crusty it is, right? If you don't want it to be crusty, just bake it for a little less or bake it at a lower temperature. Make sure it's baked all the way, of course, but you can bake it for a little shorter time. If you want it more crusty, some people like it like black. Personally, I don't like it like that, but some people like their bread to be black. Well, you can keep it in for longer; it'll get darker, so you can control that. But those are the two steps. Yeah, are there any other questions on the process so far? Or is there anything else you'd like to see me stream about? This is my second stream. It's technically my first because this morning I did one and then I came back to just show you how to shape the bread. And this one should be saved so I can clip it and put it on YouTube so you can see me do it again if you came in midstream or something like that and missed it. So if you want to bake bread without yeast, I would use baking powder. So you mean without yeast, like without any yeast, whether it's store-bought yeast or wild yeast, I'm assuming. So if you want to bake bread without yeast, you can try baking a soda bread. Soda breads are really easy to make. There's no waiting time. You don't need to wait for it to rise. You don't need really you want to go as fast as possible and just get it in the oven, right? That's what you have to do for a quick bread. They're literally called quick breads because they're quick. So it's very similar, but if you look up recipes for soda bread, there's a little bit of different ingredients. I know there's usually milk in soda bread. I don't know if there's eggs in soda bread usually. I'm not sure. But there are different types of quick breads too. Like banana bread is a quick bread, although that's a sweeter bread, so you wouldn't really eat that with like a sandwich. But there are other quick breads that, like a whole wheat quick bread, you could make. I've made breads like that before. So really, baking bread without yeast is actually easier. You don't want to develop. The only thing I'd say that might be a little tricky is, for the most part, when you're making like a bread with baking soda or baking powder, I wouldn't mix it. I would try not to over mix it. The batter is also going to be much wetter than the doughs I just showed you. It's going to be a wetter batter. So you want to mix it just until it's combined, whatever the ingredients are, just until it's combined. And I would want to get it into the oven right away. Follow the instructions. If you look up a soda bread recipe and follow the instructions, get it into the oven as soon as possible. And there you have it. It'll be bread. You'll have bread within, I don't know, like an hour. You'll have bread within an hour. So that's a really I guess convenient way to make bread. Personally, it's going to be a different texture than the bread that you make with yeast or with sourdough. So when I bake, I actually don't have store-bought yeast in the house. That's how much I trust my sourdough starter. So I don't use store-bought yeast. I use sourdough starter. And sourdough starter is simply, it's really all you do is you mix flour and water. And you just keep mixing flour and water. So you might start with 25 grams of flour, 25 grams of water, and then you keep adding every day. You'll add a little bit more and a little bit more. And eventually, you actually create wild yeast that grows in your flour and water mixture. So there's yeast in the air, there's yeast on flour, there's yeast everywhere, just like there's bacteria everywhere. And when you mix flour and water together and keep mixing it, the yeast develops and into the sourdough starter, and you see little bubbles pop up in your sourdough starter. So that's wild yeast, and that's how bread used to be made before we invented the yeast packets, or before we even invented baking powder. Relatively modern invention, very good invention, but relatively modern invention. Sourdough takes longer to make than even yeast. Yeast probably takes, like, if you use a packet of yeast, like 2 hours to make bread. The sourdough that I made today took all day, although most of it was not active time, right? Because it's just rising all day. And I'm going to leave it in the fridge overnight, so it took basically like 24 hours at the end of the day to make. Yeah, look up soda bread is really good, and it's really quick. It's a really easy one, and it is more, you can make a sweet one, but it is more savory. You can, eat it as, with butter or as a sandwich. I usually eat soda bread by itself because I feel like it is a little bit sweeter, but the texture is going to be different, is what I was getting at. So bread made with yeast, whether packet yeast or wild yeast, has a texture. I'll use the regular one so you can see it better. Has a texture you're more familiar with as a bread. Like you can see, this is a bread. Don't mind my fingers, it's beet powder. This is a bread texture. It has a crust like that. I think if you make bread with baking powder or baking soda, it might resemble a little bit a cake texture. It's going to be a little denser, and like you've had banana bread before. Banana bread is made with baking powder or baking soda, probably a mix of both. That is like a quick bread, and it's delicious, and usually very sweet, although I'm sure you can make less sweet versions. Or pumpkin bread is like a quick bread as well. It's a different texture. It's like more of a cake texture. So that's the only thing. It is different, but it is good. I make quick breads all the time. They're also very good, and they're quick. That's why they have that name. They're very quick. Any other questions about different breads? Banana bread is delicious. When I was, I mentioned this earlier, but recently, like a few months ago, my husband and I went to Sri Lanka. It was actually our, technically our honeymoon. We had been married for a while, but it was our honeymoon. And we had this very delicious miso banana bread there, and I want to recreate it. So maybe I'll show you when I recreate it. I can show you how I did it. But that's a quick bread as well. So it was really good. I also really like pumpkin bread, and I mean all those types of things are very good. With all the sugar and spice and everything nice. But yeah, very good. Anything else you'd like to see me try to do here? This is like again my first day streaming. I do some videos on YouTube. I have one with the masa that I just posted today to show you how to do that, and I also had one with the poppy seed bread, and I have plenty of other videos that I filmed and ideas. But if you guys have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. I'm a very curious person, and I like to create new things, as you could imagine. That's how I came up with this bread with maseka in it. I don't think anyone's done that before, not that I know of. So that was very fun to create. Oh yeah, llama pup. That's a good question. So no, I'm a cottage. I have a cottage bakery right now. I'm actually not baking for sale. I took a break. Although hopefully in the summer I will be doing it again. We'll see what happens though with my schedule. Um, but as a cottage baker in New Jersey, I'm not allowed to deliver to other states. I'm only allowed to sell to New Jersey. So even when I start baking again, I'm only allowed to sell to New Jersey. Um, but thank you for looking at my site, and I appreciate that. On my site as well, I just added it. So I just started messing with it. There is a recipe section and like a blog recipe section, and there's only one thing up there. And the thing that's up there is how to make a rye starter with no discard. If you're interested in sourdough at all and you're just a little overwhelmed with making your own starter, you can get a starter from somebody, like if you know someone who has one, or you can buy one online sometimes too, but it's not that hard to make your own starter. And I have instructions in there for how to make your own starter. So if you're at all interested in making your own sourdough, yeah, you go for it. Like I think it's important. Like, I mean, of course they sell it, so I want but I don't really care if I miss out on a sale because you learned how to do it. I think that's great if you know how to make your own sourdough and you know how to make your own bread. And you can use, so I'm eventually I want to have some discard recipes as well on there. I have a bunch written down that I use for myself, but I want to post some on the blog. And I can stream some and post some on YouTube as well. You can use a sourdough for other things, your sourdough discard. I make like so many things with sourdough discard. I make zucchini bread with sourdough discard, which is just like the leftover sourdough, you could say, right? So it is still a quick bread, but I put the sourdough in it for flavor and for texture. I'm planning on making a banana bread with sourdough discard. Oh, I've done it before, but I want to revamp the recipe. Just so many things. I made cornbread. The other day, I made a peanut butter cornbread inspired by Tracy Morgan himself. But I veganized it and I changed it so it had sourdough discard in it. So not only was a peanut butter cornbread, but it also had sourdough discard in it, and it was really good. So there are other things you can do with it too than just make bread all the time. Although you can just make bread all the time too, that's fine. I highly recommend it. But yeah, thanks for the interest in my site. Yeah, last summer it was actually my first year running the cottage bakery. And I'm also a teacher, which is why it's a little difficult right now because I'm working during the week. But last summer Oh, that's awesome. Where do you live? You said down here. So where do you live, llama puppies? If you don't mind me asking. We're in Jersey, so that's why it's Jersey Girl. North Carolina. Yeah. Yeah. Um, my dad moved to South Carolina, which I know isn't North Carolina, but for Northerners, it's all the same. I'm kidding though. I know they're different, but he says the bread is not good down there. So I wonder if it's kind of the same. And when we did go down there, so over here, so you say it's hard to find vegan bread, which is interesting because over here, if you go to like even just a regular grocery store, they have like bread, like pretty good bread and vegan stuff too. Because a lot of these types of bread, the hard ones, are just normally vegan. So even in North Carolina, check to see if these breads, the hard breads, are vegan. Usually they are. Usually it's just flour, salt, water, and some kind of leavening, usually yeast. So check. There might be more than you think. But I do remember down there that like the bakery section in the grocery store did look a little different. like I said, here you go to even Costco, you go to the bakery section, and they have like breads like this, the bakery section. Um, but down there was like just cake, I think. Well, it's a different culture, I guess. They eat different types of foods, but yeah. Um, and the tricky things is enzymes, which see in most packaged breads. Oh, oh, what kind of enzymes are they using? Is it like as an animal based enzyme? I'm assuming. Sometimes it's tricky with all these little tiny ingredients. Wow. Um, but yeah, yeah. So, but you should check if there's good bread by you. Rennet. Oh, I didn't know they used rennet in bread. I know they use that in cheese. Yes, rennet does come from the stomach lining of baby animals. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if anyone else is vegan in the chat. I'm assuming Llama Puppies knows this, so I'm assuming she's vegan. If Llama Puppies knows this, probably vegan. But yes, it does come from the stomach of baby animals, unfortunately. But I didn't know they used that in bread. That's interesting. Wow. I mean, I don't buy that much bread, obviously, because I bake so much, so I don't need to buy bread. But up here at least in New Jersey, there's plenty of bread. Most of it is vegan. If you go to the, like I said, the bakery section of the supermarket will have, then rather than the aisle section that has all the packaged bread, there's a bakery section in the supermarket that has fresher bread, and usually it's vegan. Of course, bakeries, this kind of bread at bakeries is usually vegan. What's not usually vegan is like the sweeter stuff. Like I made this vegan zucchini bread when I brought that to the farmer's market, and vegan pumpkin bread. That's usually not vegan, but when I make it, it's not only does it have sourdough in it, but it's also vegan. So yeah, last summer I was going to this farmer's market, that local farmer's market by us, and selling bread. And I'm a cottage baker, which means I do everything from home. Which I mean, it was a great experience. The only thing is that it's actually a good problem. We were in demand. We were in high demand, and I couldn't keep up with the demand. So I was always trying to bake more, but there was only so much I could bake in one day in my oven, because again, it's my home oven. Eventually we actually had plans to start this year and start like an actual bakery, but those plans kind of fell through. Only a year. Yeah, it's the first year, so we're new. But yeah, those plans sort of fell through, and we're gonna take a step back and see, because maybe instead of renting a place, we'll buy a place. So it would be less. Well, it would be more investment, but it would be less money if that made long term. If that makes sense. Because it's just the financials were not looking good, and the landlord was giving us a hard time, and it was just like, oh no, maybe we should take a step back and see. So we're going to wait until we buy. Yeah, we're gonna wait until we buy a place. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, we've only been running it for a year. Last year was our first time at the farmers market. And it was like I said, it was a great experience, but it definitely ran me out because damn, sorry, shoot, that was just like a lot of bread. Like, 'cause if you could imagine, it's my home oven, so I can only fit 5 loaves, and I was playing Tetris in my oven to fit 5 loaves in the oven, and so I think 5 loaves at once. And so how many bakes was I doing? I think I did a max of 4 bakes, 5 loaves at once. So that was like 20 loaves. Is that the right math? 25 loaves maybe? No, that's 20 loaves because it's 4. Yeah, that's 20 loaves. Yeah, 20 loaves. So those 20 loaves would sell in an hour. And then if I had sweets, those usually took a little longer to sell, but they would sell too. So we'd be done like really quickly at the farmer's market, and then people would come and complain and say, "Where's the bread?" And we're like, "Oh, we sold out already." So yeah, and I was trying to make more, but I didn't want to sacrifice the quality of the bread. So right now we're just playing it cool. I'm doing this, so I hope this works out, and then in the future, hopefully, we have a stand brick and mortar cafe and bakery. Can't loaf around at the market. I'll have to remember that one. My husband likes puns. Yeah, we couldn't loaf around at the market. We had to leave right away because we ran out of loaves. We ran out of loaves very quickly, very very quickly. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it was a great experience doing that. But like I said, I'm also a teacher, so I mean, I would have to retire from teaching if I did this full time, because really, teaching is a lot, and doing this is a lot as well. But during the summer, I had a lot of free time, and that's what I dedicated it to. Uh, and yeah, it was good. It was good. So, what about you, llama puppies? What do you do? Do you work or are you a student? Or anyone else in the chat wants to chime in? Yeah. I've been, a teacher for a while, but mostly like software engineer and developer. Software engineer. That's really cool. Actually, that's really really cool. And devour of any vegan foods I can find. Yeah, yeah. Llama puppies. If you don't mind me asking, how long have you been a vegan? I've been a vegan for like over 10 years. I mentioned this morning, but again, that stream doesn't exist anymore. It's gone in the ether. I've been a vegan for over 10 years, and I started when I was. I think I found meat kind of gross, so maybe I'm a fortunate vegan that I didn't. I just started finding meat kind of gross. I never liked it that much, but then I started to get a strong aversion to it, and I also got an aversion to cow's milk, because it just kind of was a little weird to me to think about drinking another mammal's milk. But then I was kind of in the online vegan space, and this was like the early 2000s, or maybe it was like 2010. Vegetarian all my that's really cool. Vegan 5 years and forever from now on. Yeah, that's really cool. Vegetarian all my life. I was not a vegetarian when I was younger. But like I said, I had a aversion to meat. I didn't like it that much. And then when I was, I guess it was around the 2010s. I'm not sure exactly what year it was, but I was in the like online vegan space. It is really sad. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting to, llama puppies, is I was in the online vegan space, and then I just, I saw a lot of like the documentary Earthlings was very popular then. That was it's kind of an old documentary now, but it's just it's just slaughterhouse footage. There's a lot of different ones that are that, and I'm not going to go into like what that looks like. If you're interested, look it up. But it is quite shocking and brutal. It's very brutal. And I just couldn't after that. That was like, I guess, the final straw, and I was like, I can't eat like that. That has been tortured, right? Um, so that was it for me. But that's really cool, llama puppies, that you were a vegetarian all your life. Are your parents vegetarians, or did you just decide that from an early age? I have a friend who decided to be a vegetarian from a very early age. So she's been a vegetarian almost all her life, even though her mom is not a vegetarian. Family is, yeah. Okay, that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I was not a vegetarian growing up, but like I said, like I never ate that much meat. And I actually eat like people think, oh, you're not gonna get enough protein if you're a vegan. I definitely eat more protein now that once I became a vegan than then, because I used to like not like meat, so I used to just not eat it and eat like the vegetables on the side and stuff like that. My friends from that time can attest, and my mom can attest. I just used to eat the side dishes a lot and maybe take a little bit of meat so no one would bother me and no one would say anything. Um, yeah. Um, so then event, when I went vegan, I eat like tofu, seitan. I eat beans almost every day. I mean, my favorite food is peanut butter, which was probably my favorite food then anyway, but that also has a good amount of protein. But I'm eating like these pretty high protein foods. I like tempeh a lot. Like, if anyone is interested also in veganism in the chat, I can also talk, more about like, you know, vegan foods and vegan nutrition. And not that I'm a dietitian or anything, but like how to get more protein and stuff like that. Pretty simple stuff, things you don't need to have a degree for. But the specifics, go to a dietitian. But yeah, so now I eat like definitely more high protein foods and probably a more balanced diet than before. Because before, like I said, I was just like eating the meat just to make everyone happy, and then just eating the side dishes because I was like, I don't really like the meat that much. But yeah, it's once you're used to it, it's easy. I'm lucky because my husband is also vegan, which is like the dream come true. I remember when I first went vegan, one of the problems for me eating the food wasn't the problem. It's like the social things are more of a problem, right? Because you're thinking, oh, they're good. People are gonna judge you. Like, how are you gonna date? Like, and I have had problems with, boyfriends who thought it was annoying that I was a vegan or something. Not all of them. Most of them didn't care. Like, if they ended up being my boyfriend, they probably shouldn't have cared. But there's some that thought it was annoying, or boys that I met thought it was annoying. But I'm very lucky and blessed, really, that my husband is also vegan, so our household does not have any animal products in it. Which I know Llama Puppies is a vegan. If anyone else in chat isn't a vegan, it might be weird, but most vegans don't like it when there's animal products in their own house. When I lived with roommates, it wasn't a big deal, although it still sometimes could be kind of annoying, a little rough. But like when it's your own home, like this is your home. This is like your nesting place, right? It's disconcerting just because you don't want to open the fridge, and if you already are in the mindset that meat is harmful to animals, and because you have to kill the animal to get the meat, and you open the fridge and there's a big, especially if it's like the meat that you can tell was an animal, like a big piece of steak or something like that. It's a little disconcerting. It's a little like, oh, that shouldn't be there. It reminds you of some unpleasant things that you don't really want in your house. So yeah, so some vegans don't care as much. I mean, every vegan's individual, but if you're not a vegan, that might be kind of weird. Like, oh, why can't I eat steak if you're not going to eat it? But it's just more of like the idea is like, this is my house, and I kind of want it to be like comfortable, and I don't want to be reminded of these negative aspects of life. So I'd rather there not be meat or dairy or anything in the house. Especially for me, it's like especially like the meat, like when you can look at it and it's so obviously like a dead animal. It's disconcerting. So I'm very lucky that our household is vegan, and if we have kids ever, they can be raised vegan, and there won't be like an issue. They're basically like very blessed in that way. But when I met him, he wasn't. This is actually a good story time. When I met him, he wasn't, but it wasn't really a big deal. He didn't like think it was, or he didn't say he thought it was weird or anything. But he did this thing where he thought I was gonna feed him like lettuce, or something. I said, "Oh, come over for dinner," and he thought I was gonna feed him lettuce. And I wasn't. I was going to feed him a full meal with, maybe tofu or something, vegetables, of course, and like some kind of whole grain or something like that. And so he would eat before he came over. He would eat before he came over because he thought I was going to give him lettuce. And then eventually he stopped doing that, which was great. I didn't know he was doing that. He told me later. I was like, oh, I used to eat before I came over. And then he just was eating like what I gave him. And yeah, this is when we were starting to get like, closer, and we're basically boyfriend, girlfriend. He's over my house, my apartment a lot. And he was just eating mostly what I gave him, not eating out as much, and he lost like a lot of weight. And he didn't believe me at first. I was like, oh, you're getting so skinny. But he was overweight, so he needed to, for his health, he should have lost weight, and he did, which is good. But I told him, oh, you're getting so skinny. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm still fat. And I was like, okay. So then he went to work and his coworkers were telling him he was getting so skinny. And then he started to like actually, believe it. So he eventually lost like over 50 pounds, which like I said, he's not underweight now. So it's okay. He was overweight. So it was good. And he was really happy with that. So eventually he went vegan. I told him like, only if you want to, right? I don't want to force you to do anything. But he went vegan mostly because he felt that it was better for his health and it was easier for him to maintain his weight. So it wasn't quite like, although I think, he is empathetic to the animal rights issues only because of, my, strong feelings about it, right? I don't think he would have felt that way if it wasn't for me. But he does find it easier to maintain his weight, especially with a big appetite. I also, believe it or not, have a pretty big appetite, especially like in the morning and breakfast time. I have a really big appetite. And I also find it easier to maintain my weight with veganism as well, but that's not the main reason I do it. But yeah, he he used to eat before he came over because he thought I was going to give him lettuce. What's my favorite non-bread thing to make? That's a good question. Earlier today, I don't know if this is my favorite thing, but earlier today, I was eating a mushroom. It was a sandwich, so I guess it was still a bread thing, but I made a mushroom mole with, it was like a peanut sauce. Hi, Pumpkin! That's my sister's here. You can follow her if you like video games, because she twitches or streams video games all the time. So, oh, there's a Pikachu. I was eating earlier today, and the stream got, I lost it in the ether. I'll tell you about it tomorrow, Brooke. I lost it in the ether, the stream, so I can't repost the stream. But I was eating a mushroom mole that I made, and it's basically, I make a peanut sauce. So I use, but it's not a Thai peanut sauce. It's a Mexican peanut sauce. So I use a cup of peanuts, a cup of water, and I use a mix of Mexican dried chilies. So I use guajillo. I didn't use ancho. I used guajillo, chipotle, puya, and then I used the mystery chili that my husband's family brought me from Oaxaca, Mexico. I'm not sure what it is, but you can replace it with like an ancho or something like that. I didn't use ancho because that was the replacement for it. But I used like a mix of those chilies, however spicy you want it. You add as many chilies as you want. A tomato, some cumin, water. That was it. I blended it. I sauteed some mushrooms, put the mole over the mushrooms, and then just sauteed that until it was like nice and soft. And I ate it as a sandwich, but you can eat it as a taco or something or anything, really, or by itself with rice. Yeah, I like that. My style of cooking is usually I like to put everything in the pot or everything in the pan and just simmer it. So if it's like a curry or something like that, you can decide which bread is yours. So I'll show the breads again if anyone entered. These are not none of these are yours actually, Brooke, because yours is going to be baked tomorrow. But I'm baking these. These are the breads that I'm going to bake tomorrow. So there's the same types of breads, if that makes sense. So this one's a plain one. And then I have a beet one. Hopefully, like I said, I want it to come out better here. My hands are filled with beets. Just so you know, it's not blood, it's beets. And this one is the taco bread that I was advertising, the Maseca taco bread. And this is what I ate with my sandwich this morning. So it was like a taco. It tasted like a taco. It's really good. So Brooke, you can choose which one you want tomorrow. I'm making these. The doughs are in the fridge already. I showed everyone how to do it. So yeah, there you go. What else do I make that's not bread related? Like, what did I make last week? Oh, I make a chickpea salad. I'm sure Llama Puppies knows what a chickpea salad is. The vegan version of a tuna salad. I made that last week. That is very, very good, and it's very easy. It's one of my favorite things to make, definitely. Aruma-kun, thank you for following. Aruma-kun, why don't you I have to ask my sister who's here how to see who enters the chat. I didn't know you were here. So if you want, you can introduce yourself in the chat and ask any questions that you want about sourdough baking or about we're talking about vegan food that we like to make, and if you want to ask about that or want to contribute to that, that's good. It's awesome. Llama puppies, what things do you like to make? Do you like to cook? I know you said you like delicious vegan food. I also make, if you're interested in this, Llama puppies, I make a mung bean scramble. I don't know if you can get this in North Carolina. I get them at a Indian store. They're split mung beans. They're yellow in color. You might be able to get it at a East Asian store too. And I soak them overnight, and then I drain them and rinse them, and then put it in the blender. And you can, with water, and then you can add whatever spices you want to it, salt, pepper. If you want to taste eggy, you can add that black salt, but I usually don't add that black salt. I'm terrible at cooking, but I'm always looking for good food. I just went to Hawaii last week and had some of the best vegan food ever. Yeah, Hawaii is pretty good. I've been to Hawaii, like, it was 10 years ago, though. It's probably much better now. Probably, I remember when I went to Hawaii, I had a lot of coconut-based things. I had a lot of coconut ice cream, coconut candy. I think got sick from coconut. I think that's what happened. But it was really good food. That's why I kept eating it. But the mung bean scramble. If you're interested, and if you can get mung beans, split mung beans, they're yellow. Soak them overnight, put them in the blender with any spices, and add water till it's like a relatively thin consistency, usually like a cup of water per cup of mung beans. And then I just like scramble it, like it's gonna be liquid. So I'm gonna put it in the hot pan and like scramble it like it was a scrambled egg. And it's kind of similar to, that's what they use to make the Just Egg. It's not direct copy, obviously Just Egg is, I guess, superior at imitating egg. But it is a good egg substitute. If you're bored of scrambled tofu, you can try scrambled mung beans if you can get it. But yeah, speaking of travel, I mentioned earlier that my husband and I went to Sri Lanka a few months ago, and the vegan food there is also very good. It might be similar, except probably spicier than Hawaii because they use a lot of coconut as well. But a lot of spicy things, a lot of like curries, like potato curry, lentil curry. They gave us these hoppers every morning. They gave us hoppers, and we wanted them every morning, so we were waiting for them. But hoppers were like crepes. They were very thin, and they were made with rice flour, and it was a savory crepe. And they do make the they call them egg hoppers with eggs in them, but they don't all come with eggs in them. You can get them plain, or you can get them with, they call them string hoppers. And in string hoppers, they put rice noodles in them. And then you can put, on top of the rice noodles, you can put the curries on top. So it's really good. It was really delicious. And also, like, the street food's good. Like, they have roti huts, which roti is just like a flatbread. So they would, fill it up with stuff. So they'd fill it up with, like, you can get it with savory stuff, like with curries and stuff, but we actually, even though I'm more of a savory person, we really like the sweet ones. Like, we really like, they filled it up with coconut, or they filled it up with bananas. I really like the banana roti. They also filled it up, something that was really good. You can probably make this at home, even in South Carolina. It doesn't require that many special ingredients. I guess the tamarind might be hard to find, but I think you might be able to get it online. If you like savory food, sweet and savory food, you should try sini sambal. I'll put it in the chat. Sini sambal. If you like onions, anyway. It's an onion relish. I've made it at home. And so I know, like, it's doable. It takes, like, it's very quick. You basically just caramelize the onions, but you're gonna do it with some spices. And with tamarind, which is a sweet and sour paste made with a fruit. You might be able to find it at like Mexican grocery stores too, so not just Asian ones. And it's like a sweet, sour, spicy Hello, Alexandra. It's a sweet, sour, and spicy like condiment, and they also made roti with that inside of it, stuff that. But I actually actually have some of that in the fridge. I have to eat up. I forgot about it, but it's you can put it on toast too. You can put it on top of curries or it's just a relish. It's really good though. It's really good if you're interested in global cuisine and vegan cuisine. Sri Lanka is definitely up there in the vegan cuisine department. Hi Alex, how are you? We're talking about vegan food. If you want input, you can add something too. Um, yeah. Llama puppies, do you like Indian food or South Asian food too? So there's a lot of vegetarian and vegan options there. And actually, it wasn't recently. It was like 4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. Yes, 4 years ago. My husband and I went to Mexico City, and you'd be surprised. You would think Mexico wouldn't have any vegan food, and I think most of it doesn't. Not too much anyway. But Mexico City has a lot of vegan food, a lot. And it was like just like all vegan taco trucks, and they were delicious. They had a lot of plant-based meats like soy meats and seitan, which is a wheat-based meat. And that's how I was inspired with this maseka. Dosa, dosas are my favorite thing. They're one of my favorite things. I really like dosas. In Sri Lanka, we also had a lot of dosas. We'd get them like every day for lunch, even though it's not really Sri Lankan, but they have a lot of it there because it's so close to India. Um, yeah, so yeah, this I was inspired to add maseka to the bread because of how much I like the tacos in Mexico City. They're so good. Um, and what was I talked about this morning, but I'm going to mention it again. Like the it was kind of almost nostalgic, like the taco trucks and the vegan places in Mexico City. It almost felt like they came out of 2010, like they're a little behind in the style because they all had those like uh, animal rights liberation type stickers. I'm sure llama puppies, you might remember these. I mean, anyone might remember these, but especially if you were like in the vegan community at the time. Like it said something like, there are stickers that said "not your mom, not your milk," like and things like that. Like, and they had animal liberation, not your mom, not your milk, and some of them were in Spanish, some of them were in English, and they are like those stark black, white, and red type um, colors. I'm sure llama puppies, you remember those like from probably more than 10 years ago. But I like seeing those. They were kind of nostalgic. I was like, ooh, what year is it? Almost like like punk rock kind of aesthetic, if that makes sense. So they were that was cute. I thought. I know they were sincere, but I thought it was cute. Yeah. So yeah, I have quite a few shirts, hoodies with those phrases. So long puppies, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, and I like that. That was funny. I feel like that's fallen out of fashion for the most part in veganism. I feel like not that I care either way. I'm like not pro or against those little phrases. I don't care, but I feel like it's fallen out of fashion to do that, and it's more like kind of like, oh no, just be nice. Oh, don't say things like not your mom, not your milk. It depends on what circle you're in, but I don't see it as much as I used to see it. Yeah. Um, so yeah, llama puppies. What's your favorite food to eat? I know you said you like vegan food. I know you said you like dosa, and you said you went to Hawaii and you had great vegan food. What's your favorite food to eat, and what's some of the vegan food that you had in Hawaii? Besides, I mean, I ate like coconuts. I'm sure they have more now than they had when I went because I went over 10 years ago. And Alexandra, how's your bread making going? I know you're making bread, so don't hide from me. I have to charge my phone. I'm just gonna plug the charger in. I like your apron. Yeah, my apron has kittens on it. Pumpkin curry. The pumpkin curry is really good. Loco Moco. I've never had that. I've never had a Loco Moco. Now I have to look that up. Rice, tofu, scrambled mushroom gravy. That sounds good. Yes, my apron has kittens on it. I got this a very long time ago. And I believe it was on sale. So, yeah. It's a very good apron. I also have an apron with beets on it that I also really like. The problem is it doesn't like tie in the back, so it's like too big. So I think I'm just gonna cut it and create and create a tie. I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but I'll have to do that because I've had the apron for a while. But this one does tie in the back, you can see, so it's tight, doesn't fall off. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, in Sri Lanka we also had like so many, like we had pumpkin curry there too. We had beet curry. If there's something you can curry, they'll curry it in Sri Lanka. We had jackfruit curry. We had jackfruit seed curry because they made a curry out of the jackfruit seeds. Just everything. And they also I really liked, they might have this in Hawaii too, but I don't know if you've had it. I believe this is the first time I've had it. They had breadfruit curry, and it almost tastes like plantains or potatoes. I thought it was a potato actually. I was convinced it was a potato, but it was a breadfruit. And I believe it's the first time I've had it. I might have had it before and thought it was a potato because that's how much it tasted like a potato or like a plantain. But yeah, we also had plantain curries too while we were there. Just anything if there's something, you can curry it. Yeah, it's probably breadfruit's probably really hard to find here. I never even tried to find it here in the US. I'm not sure if it's any better or worse in the South. I imagine it's worse or the same. But definitely next time you're in like a tropical place, see if they have breadfruit. Because it was good. It was really good. But yeah, they do have though, at least up here, they have plantains at the store. So you can probably make a plantain curry. Just the green, unripe, starchy bananas. Sorry. Is anyone like watching anything interesting or listening to anything interesting? Related or unrelated? Do you ever make pizza? Yeah, I make pizza. That's a good question. Maybe I should stream making pizza. So I actually use the same technique to make the pizza dough. I use the same technique to make the pizza dough. I add semolina to the dough to make like a New York style pizza. And then I take the dough, like I make like the same size. I split it in half, so I have two pizza doughs, and then I just shape it like a pizza dough, and I add toppings and bake it. So it's the same process I use to make the pizza dough. It's not really that. It's not any fancier. But that is a good question because I should stream making pizza and make videos about making pizza because everyone likes pizza. Last time I actually made because I don't like to do anything the normal way. I don't know. Is that a picture of pineapple on pizza? I do not put pineapple on pizza though. I'm a little against that because I don't like pineapple. Believe it or not. That's a funny whatever you'd call that image emoticon. I don't know what you'd call that. But last time I made pizza, I didn't make like a normal red sauce and cheese pizza. I made I made one pizza that my husband absolutely loved with salsa verde, which is just, I'm sure you know, it's a tomatillo, green tomatillo sauce, Mexican sauce. I just bought it at the store. You can get it at the store very easily. And then I made a cheese with tahini, a tahini based cheese that you just whip up. I used a little bit of starch to make it stretchy, but it didn't stretch that much, but it was still good. Um, and yeah, that was, and I added some homemade Taylor ham. Llama Puppies probably doesn't know what Taylor ham is, but I know some other people in the chat know what Taylor ham is. Um, it's a meat common in New Jersey that is um, it's like almost like bacon, but it's not bacon. Um, yeah, it's a processed meat. Let's say that it's almost like spam too. If you know what spam is, it's in between spam and bacon. I think in between those two things. So I make a homemade version of that with seitan. So I added that on top of the pizza too. He loved that. And then I made another pizza with a red pepper sauce, and then I made a cheese using raw peanuts, not roasted, because roasted will taste, if you do that, it tastes like peanut butter. But raw peanuts don't taste, they don't have that peanut taste yet. You have to roast them to get it out of them. But if you use them raw, they have more of a neutral taste. So I used raw peanuts to make another cheese sauce. Also really good. They both came out really good. Oh, and I used arugula on that one too. So I can never make like a normal thing. I can make a normal pizza with red sauce and mozzarella cheese. But they were like probably, when I say they're really, really good, I mean it's probably the best pizza I've ever made. It was perfect. So I'm going to have to do it again. My husband wanted to eat the whole thing at once, but you know, yeah. Split it up at least to 2 servings, at least. What is that? What's that a picture of? Is it a crown? I can't see that. Thank you for the crown. I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, pizza is a good thing to make. And if there's anything else you want to see me make, I can. Just the crown. Okay. Yeah, for the queen, I guess. For the pizza queen, who does not like pineapple on anything, let alone on pizza. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, if there's anything else you want to see me make, I know like breads without yeast, like soda bread was mentioned. I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if you were all here, but I made a cornbread with the sourdough, but it was a quick bread, a peanut butter cornbread, because I love peanut butter. The more you know me, the more you'll know I like peanut butter. And what else did I make? I want to make like things like a pie with the sourdough starter. You know, things like muffins, and you know, I know Llama Puppies looked at my website, and I make zucchini bread. That's on there. That's on my website. Stuff like that. But there's also savory things I can do with the starter. I'm trying to think of what are some of the savory things. Like, oh yes, I've made. Although it doesn't come out, I want to test it more. I can test it in front of you if you want to, so you can see my failures. It was actually really good, but it didn't. I tried to make a frittata with the sourdough starter, but I think it was a little too fermenty tasting. It didn't taste like a frittata, but it was still really good. I almost want to just call it like a breakfast bake, a savory breakfast bake with the sourdough starter. So yeah, there are other things I can do with it. I can make. You probably saw on my website too. I made babka, pistachio babka, and I can make other types of babka too. I've made poppy seed babka before. And I think of the other ones I made. I made sesame babka with black sesame seeds. That one was very good, but very different. I made peanut babka, of course. That's my favorite personally, just because I'm a peanut girl. But yeah, if there's anything else that you're curious about or you want tips on, I could do it on the stream. Cinnamon bomb. Yeah, what else is a Seinfeld reference? The marble rye. When I brought the marble rye to the farmer's market, everyone was quoting Seinfeld because weren't they fighting over the last marble rye or something like that? Yeah. Marble rye. I can show you how to marble the loaves too. Yeah. Um, I can show you how to marble the loaves too. Wasn't the joke on Seinfeld? Okay, I'm going backwards. Because I'm just remembering. Wasn't the joke on Seinfeld that no one wanted the cinnamon one, that everyone wanted the chocolate one? I think that was the joke, right? I don't remember because I don't really watch Seinfeld. But I know the joke about the marble rye was, I think, didn't they like attack a grandma over the marble rye or something like that? Like they had to get the last one, something like that. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong about the cinnamon babka joke. And only the cinnamon was left, and they didn't want that one or something like that. That wasn't the good one. Chocolate one was the good one. Well, you can put anything in a babka. You can put anything in it. I mean, most people put chocolate or cinnamon in it, but you can put pistachios in it. That one was very popular during the summer. Everyone liked the pistachio. Some people told me it was like one of the best things they've ever had was the pistachio babka. So gotta broaden your horizons, Seinfeld. I have an unpopular opinion about Seinfeld. Only that I don't think he's that funny, and I think Larry David is much funnier, and that's why Seinfeld was funny because Larry David is funny. I don't think Seinfeld is that funny. But maybe I'm speaking to the wrong crowd. But yeah. Are there any other like TV shows or anything that you guys like to watch or hobbies or anything like that? Or if you like Seinfeld, I'm sorry that I insulted your show, or at least insulted the main actor. I was saying this earlier, but my husband and I, because my sister mentioned it. So my sister, who's in the chat, mentioned this. Um, Too many shows to list. I don't watch that much TV, so that's a difference between you and I. Well, between a lot of people. I don't watch that much TV, so I can actually list the shows that I've been watching. So my sister mentioned it the other day, Adventure Time, and so I started watching it again because it's on Hulu, and we have Hulu. I think my mom got the big package and wants everyone to use it. So we were watching Adventure Time, and it's just such a nice show. It's so nostalgic. I like cartoons like that, and it's so wholesome. And I think my husband thinks it's funny just because I think it's funny. Yeah, it's a really good show, and it's for millennials too. For I think younger millennials, it kind of hits home. It feels like a really good watch. When I'm watching it, I'm like, this is good. This is how it's supposed to be. But before that, like way before that, actually, like last year sometime, I actually really got into. It's very deep sometimes. That's what my sister said, but I don't think I've gotten far enough. I don't know how far I've ever gotten in that show. I did not get it to season 10 because I think shows should end at season 6. So that's another controversial take I have about shows is that they should end at season 6. But you can agree to disagree in the chat. But we were watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia last year, and I was surprised that I really liked it. I think we got up to around season 6 or 7, and then I got kind of bored. But that happens with me sometimes with shows. I get kind of bored at that point because I think that's where they should stop. But it's really funny, and something about that show is also very nostalgic, even though I didn't watch it when I was younger. Just because they were dressed like in like 2010s. I felt that it was 2008 or something when I was watching it. I think that's because that's the time when it started. But even their haircuts, their clothing, I mean, to me, it was like kind of, to my personal taste, a lot of the clothing styles, especially on the women, were kind of a little ugly and outdated, but it was kind of at the same time kind of nostalgic to see people dressed like that with like the skinny jeans and the graphic T-shirts and the strange hairstyles, too much eye makeup, stuff like that. Yeah, so it just speaking of nostalgia, kind of reminded me of that. But the show itself, besides just the weird outfits, to me, weird outfits that they're wearing, old style outfits that they're wearing, is very funny. So I highly recommend that if you're into that kind of humor. Kind of like, it's not quite like The Office, but situational comedy reminiscent of that, or maybe more like Curb Your Enthusiasm a little bit because of the situational, offbeat situational humor. I'd say, yeah, really good. Yeah. So llama puppies, any hobbies besides like veganism? I know you're a software engineer, so that is in and of itself very, I guess impressive is the word. Very impressive. Like obviously, I like to just lots of TV movies, anime, okay dramas. It got separated in the chat box. So it looked like KDR amas. It's like what's that? K dramas. Okay, yeah, that's cool. I like obviously I like baking, and that's takes up a lot of time. But also like reading and writing. I'm an English teacher, so of course that comes to no surprise, right? Reading, writing. When it's nice out, I like to go outside for walks and stuff. I garden sort of in my living room. There's a little garden that is not doing too hot because it's like cold and not sunny, but it's coming back. High school English. No, thank goodness not. I do college level actually, which is good for me because I am not in front of the class for how many hours? Like 6 hours a day if you're a high school English teacher. It also gives me a little bit more free time. So yeah, I do college level English. Right now, I don't have any classes to myself. I'm the academic coach for 3 classes, which means I'm helping the professor in the class. I have been a professor in the past, but this semester I kind of took a step back and I'm just doing being an academic coach this semester. This gives me more free time to focus on this and what I want to do with this. But yeah, high school English. We actually talked about this morning. What a good question. AI for, I mean, students actually have tried to do that, and there are AI detectors that they tell us to use. I don't know how effective they are. I haven't had this problem. You can usually tell if it's not the student's writing, um, especially if you've already seen the student's writing before. It's kind of like, oh, this is different. So I haven't had that happen to me yet. Um, but I know that this may or may not be becoming a problem in the future. Obviously, I think that students should write their own papers. I have a slightly more negative view towards AI than I think some of the other professors do. Some professors are trying to use it like as a tool in their class, which I think actually could be a good workaround. Um, I, I, I mean, I work one on one with a lot of students as an academic coach and as a tutor. So that gives me insights into some of the ways students think. And I've had students say things to me like, oh, like, I'll just get AI to write it for me. Like, not even joking. So, and when students have the attitude, it just makes me feel that the AI is creating this. Of course, the student had this attitude before AI, to be fair, but perhaps the over reliance on technology is creating a problem for us as this humanity, really. So, I mean, only the future will tell what happens. Um, like I'm a millennial. I'm a younger millennial. So I was not born with the cell phone in my hand. I didn't get a cell phone until I was a teenager, and even then, it wasn't quite like the cell phones we have now. It was just a flip phone that didn't have internet, and I didn't really even use it at all. It's kind of funny to think about it, that I had a cell phone that I didn't even use at all. So I kind of worry about the generations after millennials. Yeah, me too. Mama puppies, me too. I'm glad that I was almost born into. If I was born a few years later, I would have maybe had a cell phone coming out of the womb like they have it now. Some kids have now, depending on who their parents are. But yeah, I kind of worry about the over reliance on technology in general. Addiction to phones. I think also here's a tidbit. So one of the professors I'm working with is older. I don't know how old she is, but let's say she's at least 60, right? And she has a great memory. She remembers dates of things that happened, like historical events. It might just be her, to be fair. This is an anecdote, so this isn't evidence of anything. But I think this anecdote it did get me thinking a lot. She just remembered dates, like this historical event happened in this date, and this happened here, and this, and I don't remember dates of things. I think a lot of people my age don't, and I'm not saying that's good or necessarily bad, but I think the reason why we don't remember dates of things is because we can look it up. Thank you, Lobe Tope. Is that how you say that? You can correct me in the chat. I didn't know you were here, so if you want, please contribute to the conversation, introduce yourself in the chat, let me know how you're doing, or if you have any thoughts about this conversation. We kind of veered off our main topic, but that's okay. But basically, like, she had a great memory for like random things that I thought were like random dates and stuff like that. But why would I remember the date of the American Revolution, right? Why would I remember the date the Roman Empire collapsed or something else? Like, why would I remember that? Because I can look it up, right? And while, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Like, those are things that don't really need to be used in everyday life, so it's okay. But when I think about that, it can extend to other things. Like, we have so much power in our phones to look up all this information that we don't need to store in our brains anymore. And I do kind of wonder, like I said, I think I am kind of lucky in that I'm glad that I'm old. I'm not old, but I'm glad that I am now, because I wouldn't really want to be a kid right now. I think it would be kind of hard. And I kind of got to witness both. Like, I'm not sure how old you are, Llama Puppies. You don't have to tell me. But if you're a millennial, you got to witness like both, like, like VHSs and this like kind of technological revolution type things that we had when the teachers wheeled in the TVs into the room and stuff like that. And then we got to witness what happened when we we're probably around the same age. And I also got to witness the revolution of the iPhone and things like that, and what that brought. And that brought a lot of like really like, I mean, this whole Twitch thing that I'm doing right now wouldn't be possible without that kind of technology, right? Like, we, maybe we would do something like this, but it would be much different. So it brought a lot of really cool things that I'm glad were invented, but I think that humanity hasn't been able to handle it yet. So I don't know if we've adapted to it yet. So that's what I'm worried about. So, and it's like our job to adapt to it, right? And it's the Gen Zs and Gen Alphas and their job to adapt to it, and that's a hard job. So I'm a little worried about what will happen. So AI in schools, long answer, short answer is that I am a little worried about that. I think some students will take advantage of it. I think if a student really wants to learn, he or she will not take advantage of it and will actually do their work. But I know there are some students who will try to get through with using that. And what does that mean for education? And when education is already, especially higher education, is already under such fire now, it doesn't look good. But we're just gonna have to deal with it. Yeah. Any ideas? Any thoughts on the puppies? Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah. I mean, I know they sometimes give kids like iPads or like tablets in school, and they put some of their homework on the tablets and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't teach high school or middle school, so I don't know what's going on there. Uh, I just think so. Here's another example. I actually was telling my sister about this the other day, and I've been telling everyone about this. I won't use any names or any other characteristics, but I'll tell you a story that just happened a few days ago. My students were in the writing lab. They were supposed to be writing, right? And one of my students was watching anime, and I could see it. He was watching it on the computer where he was supposed to be writing in big screen. I could see it. So I walked next to him, and I just kind of stood next to him, and he turned it off, right? So I was like, okay. So he knew I saw that he did it. Then I walked to the back of the room, and he put the anime back up. So then I had to go back next to him, and he turned it off again, right? But then he did eventually put it on his phone. They're always on their phones. He put it on his phone and put his earphones in. But he had it on so loud that I could hear it from the back of the room. So I had to go and tell him to turn it down. Now, I'm not the teacher in this class, so I'm not going to reprimand him. I'm not going to... but when it's so obvious like that, it's like, yeah, you have... If you're going to listen to something, at least turn it down, because you're annoying everyone else at this point. But they're always on their phones, and that's just one example of something like pretty crazy to me, like to turn it back on after I walked away from him. It just... And if you give... Now, going back to the tablet thing, I feel like kids know how to use... Unless they somehow block all the websites, I don't know how they do it, but I feel like kids can just go on there and play games. I mean, I've had that happen to me in class. Like, I just gave an example, and I've had it happen other times where kids were literally playing games in class, and yeah, I don't know how to handle that. You say, to teach younger students. Wow, that's crazy. Personalized AI tutors. I hope I'm old by the time that happens. There's actually, so this is a little off topic, but I think it's really interesting. So there's, people think, oh, I'd like to live forever, right? People want to live forever. But then there's another frame of thought that actually things change so much and so quickly that it would actually be like psychologically like damaging to like live forever. So that's why I said I hope I'm old by the time that happens, because I don't really want to see that happen. I don't want to see AI tutors. That sounds a little too much for me, right? I don't know if I'd be able to adapt to that or even accept that there's an AI tutor teaching my kid. I'd be like, nope. I want a real tutor teaching my kid. So I feel like it's very interesting to me, the idea that, if you live long enough, if you witness enough change, it's actually like somehow like so it's almost disheartening to see that much change, right? It's too much, especially at the rate we're advancing technologically now. It's like almost kind of frightening, kind of dystopian, kind of, right? Like it changes so quickly, you feel like you're in a dystopian novel. So yeah, that's something interesting. So that's why I said I hope I'm old by the time that happens. I don't really want to see AI tutors teaching my kids. But it could be useful, that's the thing. So you have to remember it could be useful. I don't know. Time will tell what happens with that. Hopefully we can adapt to it and use it. That's what I mean, llama puppies. That's kind of scary, isn't it? I don't know when VR started to become a thing, like the headset thing. I feel like it was a while ago. I feel like it was years and years ago. But I remember when they first started selling the headsets. I was like, that's ridiculous. That's not a good idea. We're already addicted to our phones. We don't need that. But yeah, now you know all my ideas and thoughts about phone usage and technology. Yeah, I think it's helpful, but I think it's also harming us because we don't know how to use it properly. We're addicted to it. We overuse it. We rely on it too much. Yeah. So yeah, are there any other questions, concerns, interesting topics you want to bring up? Um, like I said, I'm recording this one, and it should save on my Twitch. My first stream is lost in the ether because I didn't change my settings on Twitch. I thought it would save, but it didn't. But I will save this one on Twitch, and hopefully also I can post it on YouTube, so you can see the beginning where I actually showed you what I was doing with the bread. You can rewatch that if you want to get more. You just want to practice more. I also have, like I said earlier, I posted on YouTube the video of making the masa bread, especially because the stream got lost. I wanted to post that. It's under taco bread. I wrote make taco bread with me. So if you want to learn how to make that, watch that video. If you don't have a sourdough starter, I have on my blog instructions about how to make sourdough starter. It's on my website, which is also linked on Twitch. Go to the recipes tab. Like I said, I'm revamping my website. It's the same website I use for my cottage bakery, so there's also some stuff about my cottage bakery on there, which you can read about too if you want. So yeah, go to my recipes tab, and you can see it's the only one there. I just started doing it, so it's the only one there. So if you want to, start baking with sourdough, that's your first step. So I would highly recommend checking that out. But does anyone else have any questions, topics they are curious about? So I'm going to cut this stream a little shorter than my first one. My first one was about 3 hours. Unfortunately, it got cut off. Next week, I'll update you when my stream is going to be. I have an event on Saturday, so I'm just going to move it a different day. I'm planning on doing one a week, and every week I'll do something different. So again, I don't really know what I'm doing next week yet, but I'll write it on my page. So under where it says schedule, I'll write down what I'm going to stream and what day I'm going to stream. Like I said, I don't think it'll be Saturday because it will be a time crunch, and I want to do it for at least 3 hours, probably 4 hours. So I might do it on Friday or Sunday. Sunday maybe because it's a weekend. It might be better for people to watch a long stream on the weekend. So yeah, and if you have any suggestions, you can also give a suggestion in the chat. But otherwise, I'll see you next week if you come. If you don't come, you can always watch them. If you're welcome for streaming. Thank you for watching. But if you don't come, I should repost them, so you should be able to still see them on YouTube or on Twitch. My sister, who I think is still in the chat, will help me with that tomorrow, because I'm not. But if you couldn't tell by my rant on technology that we don't use it correctly, I'm not a techie person, so I don't know how to use Twitch yet, but I'm getting better at it. So yeah, I will see you all next week if you decide to show up. If you don't, I'll see you eventually because I'm sure you had a nice time and I had a nice time talking to you. So I'll see everyone. Bye. Thanks for coming.